What is going on, fellas? Week 9 in the books, minus my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going to cover the spread tonight. 9-point spread against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But there was a ton of stuff that happened this Sunday. Mostly bad, not a lot of good.
Yeah.
This is one of those weeks I think we want to forget for fantasy football purposes.
I want to forget it really badly right now, to be honest.
Yeah, it was not a great week overall. I mean, there was a couple, highlights that we'll talk about as far as guys that we liked or guys that we have shares of that, had big games, but a lot more injuries that we got to talk about. We'll kick things off with Danny's pain duo here. We got Dak Prescott suffering what Dr. Jesse Morris is calling a significant hamstring strain, to the point that he expects him to miss at least 1 to 2 games, if not potentially up to a month, and maybe even a candidate to go on IR. And also a right throwing hand injury as well, where he said because of the swelling that he saw on the broadcast, he's actually worried he might have fractured his hand.
So for the hand specifically, what I heard happen is when he got hit after a play, whatever, his hand was down. I think somebody stepped on his hand, which is why it was so swollen. So that was on the hand injury. In terms of the hamstring, apparently Dak himself said that he felt it pop. And that is never a good sign. If you guys have dealt with hamstring soreness, hamstring pulls, anytime somebody says, I heard it pop or I felt it pop, it's probably a significant strain. Now, it kind of reminds me, of course, when Nico Collins is running in for a touchdown against the Buffalo Bills and he heard it pop, and Nico Collins missed, 4 games, put on IR?
Yeah, Mike Evans looked like a pop. He felt it pop on the near touchdown he had against the Ravens a couple weeks ago, too. So it appears the Cowboys are going to be without their starting quarterback at least next week, if not probably for a couple of games. And they're also in danger of being without their best offensive playmaker. CeeDee Lamb suffered an AC sprain. Again, sometimes players can play through this if it's minor, if it's very mild. But if it is a grade 2 AC sprain, it's a 2 to 4 week injury. May shut him down for a game or two if Dak's out. If it's mild, it could be just like Dontavian Wicks. He didn't miss any time with it. He was limited in practice for a week and then he was good to go. But they might shut him down for a game or two, knowing that Prescott's not going to be out there anyway.
Yeah, and I'll just give context on that as well. Watching through that game, once he suffered the shoulder injury, after every single snap, regardless of if he faced contact on it or not, he was grabbing at his right shoulder.
Yeah, I saw
every
him
single time,
moving around and stuff too.
And dude, a couple times, you press technique, you take a little hand there after the play, he's grimacing, holding down like that. If he can't absorb a press coverage onto his right shoulder right now, I don't know what to say. I mean, we'll talk about the takeaway in a minute, because obviously my takeaway number 1 was, what did I do to deserve this? I'll let you finish out with the injuries first, but that is literally going to be my first takeaway. I'll just give you guys the warning.
If you don't have Prescott and Lamb's playing injured, what's the point of putting him out there? You're probably going to lose the next couple of games. You're more or less
horrible schedule.
You're more or less out of contention for your division. The way that Washington is playing, Philadelphia playing better now. It might just be curtains on this season at this point.
And it sucks. I mean, we may as well just talk about it since we're already into it, and then we'll go back through the other the other injuries in a second. But it can't be a worse situation for the Cowboys. And I'm a Cowboys fan. Obviously, I'm an optimistic fan, but at the same time, it's we got to face the curtains here. It's a 3-5 team right now. You're missing probably your quarterback for at least the next 2 to 4 weeks, if not longer. Like you said, number 1 wide receiver probably for the next 1 to 2 weeks. And now you got a murderer's row of a schedule where you're playing. You still have to play the Commanders twice. You still have to play the Eagles twice. You still have to play the Texans. You still have to play the Cincinnati Bengals. There are legitimate playoff teams on the schedule, to the point where, even as an optimistic fan at this point, the best interest of the team, quite simply, is recover the rest of the year. This is not your year. Next year, when the defense is fully fucking healthy, when Deron Bland isn't coming off of IR to start the year, when DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons aren't missing the entirety basically of the year, they got hurt, week 2, have not played a game since. Now you're missing Dak and Lamb. This is just not your year. And the way to make it your year next year is by strengthening that draft pick. I want this team to go 5-6 wins total on the year at this point. Because if that gets you Mason Graham, if that gets you Will Johnson, if that gets you a stud wide receiver, dude, you're already struggling to win games with your stud players healthy, and now they're not healthy. What is the expectation? Do you want another 2020 situation where you had no wins and then you just wanted to rattle off a win streak at the end of the year? Now, obviously, we got lucky because it resulted in us getting Micah Parsons, but if you don't get Micah Parsons in that situation, you end up drafting one of the busts that were there in the 2021 draft. We aren't even talking about this Cowboys team as currently constructed right now. They lucked into Parsons.
Yeah, they did. I think, I mean, Ashton Genty to the Cowboys has a nice ring to it. If you guys
I
finish with
love
like the 10th
Genty.
or 11th pick or something, he's going to be a
Dude,
Cowboy, man. I hate to tell you.
I love Genty, but with all due respect, if you pick 10 or 11 and Mason Graham or one of those stud defensive players are on the board, like, and
We've
they take
seen
a
the
running back.
NFL time and time again prioritize guys like that. What are the odds you're going to get a stud defensive lineman at 10 or 11?
Well, if not a stud defensive lineman, then like, tell me
One
right
of
now
them.
that you wouldn't take Tet McMillan or Luther Burden on the Cowboys.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
Like,
But I don't know.
it's
Genty
tough.
just might be different, right? If they view him as different, it could be a Falcons and Bijan situation where they're like, he was the best player on our board. We had to take him.
And you know what? I will take Ashton Genty if it's the result of us hiring Ben Johnson. That is the only circumstance. It's like, if we hire Ben Johnson and you have Ashton Genty running in his run scheme, then it's a different story. But if you're, say, hiring, I mean, like, just think of a gross. Who's even like a tenured offensive coach? Oh God! Oh man! I mean, hear me out, Lincoln Riley to the Cowboys.
Oh, are we going to pretend that Lincoln Riley's still a good coach? Okay. Last thing we'll say about the Cowboys really quick. Let's say you guys finish the season 5-6 wins or something like that. Yeah, I agree. I think you're on one for not wanting Ashton Genty. If you guys are picking the teams, dude, I think it's a little bit more appropriate.
For the record, again, like it's not about riding Rico over Ashton. It's about if you get a top 10 pick, you have so many needs on this roster. Dude, I'm not talking ill about Ashton Genty. I think he's a fucking unicorn. But this team has so many more holes than running back. Rico Dowdle's averaged 5.2 yards per carry in his last 3 games. Again, like, he's nowhere close to Ashton Genty, the talent. But, like, look at what your interior defensive line is looking like right now. You don't think Mason Graham would be more valuable to the defensive line than a running back on this team?
Yeah, well, we got to take Ollie Gordon in the 3rd round and then take someone who you can use in the 1st round or whatever. You take Hampton in the 2nd round or whatever. It makes more sense to do it that way, just given the value of the position. The one thing I will ask you, just because of dynasty lens, does this put any damper on Dak's potential staying with the team? Do you think they're more likely to re-up Dak or less likely, to re-up Dak if they have a bad season this year?
Well, he's already signed for the next 4 or 5 years, right? So it's like, I don't think it's going to have an effect. Like, this is pretty much what happened in 2020. He got hurt, and that's when he signed his previous extension, was actually after that year. So for me, I don't think it has any concern. Again, the Cowboys know that when Dak's fully healthy, when he's on his game, again, he wasn't playing his best football this year. I think everybody can acknowledge that. But at the same time, it's like, when this guy's fully healthy, he gives you your best chance to win. And I mean, who knows? Maybe this is exactly what this team needed. They came off a disappointing loss to the Packers in the playoffs. I was calling for Mike McCarthy's head after that playoff loss. You end up going with another year for him. It doesn't look like it's going to be a good year. He's most likely going to be gone after this year, quite simply. Like, if the Cowboys win 5 to 8 games, like, Mike McCarthy, see you later. I don't know if you're coaching in the CFL. I don't know if you're coaching in college. I don't know where you're going next. I better know it's not going to be on the Cowboys. And if that's the case, I mean, like, people are going to like shit on like, haha, who wants to be Jerry's underhand for the next head coaching job? Guys, that's not how head coaches think. Straight up.
No,
like,
especially not when you're coaching the biggest franchise in sports.
Yeah. Like, dude, if there's a young, like, I'm telling you right now, people are like, oh yeah, there's no way for example, Ben Johnson, he wouldn't leave the Lions for the Cowboys. If the Cowboys are offering him a head coaching job and he doesn't have to live under the shadow of Dan Campbell. I mean, he was prepared to leave for the Bears job last year if it was offered to him.
Yeah, no, dude, like, first of all, there's only 32 jobs on this planet. There's only one Dallas Cowboys job also, which, as much as I don't like the Cowboys, a lot of people don't like the Cowboys. They're still the Dallas Cowboys. Like, this is
the notoriety, the brand deals. Like,
this is what little kids dream of if they want to be a head coach when they grow up. Like, you coach the Dallas Cowboys. Like, that's every young offensive mind would love to coach that team.
And any coach worth their damn who believes in their system, who believes in their ability to coach a team, you don't think they're going to look at the Cowboys job and be like, I could be the savior for the biggest market in the NFL. Like, I can be like, dude, the last 2 head coaches for the Cowboys were Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy. You don't think like a Ben Johnson is going to look at that and think, I could be the best coach the Cowboys have had in the last 30 years?
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting.
You know what I mean?
I think if you can, get as low of a draft pick or high of a draft pick, as possible, add a player, difference-making defensive player, offensive player, whatever it ends up being, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive tackle, offensive lineman, whatever it ends up being, get a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round, get some wide receiver depth on this team, maybe make an addition in free agency, re-sign Dak Prescott, re-sign Micah Parsons in the offseason.
Dak's already re-signed. Dak's already re-signed.
Right. Yeah. He is. I look at this team, sorry, and I actually forgot it. For some reason, I thought Dak was on an expiring contract this year.
No, he re-signed.
I totally forgot they actually did re-sign him. So that's on me. But Yeah, this team could be back. And I said going into the season that I thought they were an average team. Like I really did. I thought that,
I mean,
the
injuries
lack of depth
played a part
starting
too.
a rookie left tackle, like there was just so many things that
Yeah.
added up to like, this won't be the year that
Yeah.
you're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and I think Super Bowl contender, like I always agreed that we wouldn't be like, okay, this is an expectation. We're going to go to the NFC Championship. We're going to the Super Bowl. That's not what I said.
I don't
What
know,
I,
dude. You were still saying
well,
top 3 team in the
I,
NFC coming into the year.
I mean, I was always saying I thought we'd win 10 to 12 games. I stand firm on that. That's what I was saying. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I mean, injuries and lack of good play. I mean, like we weren't playing our best ball. Like that helps. But I mean, overall, everybody knows at this point, this is pretty much a lost year. It's the same vibe I got in 2020 once Dak completely rearranged his ankle. Like, it is what it is. And sometimes, I mean, you win 3 years of 12 games straight in a row and you don't get past the divisional round. Like it was bound to happen at some point. Like you weren't just going to go to the divisional round with 12 wins again. Like it wasn't going to happen.
No, for sure. And let's get back to the other injuries because we talked a lot about the Cowboys and how they're Joever. AJ Brown, speaking of the NFC East, MCL sprain is what it looks like. That's what Dr. Morse called it. He avoided serious injury, according to Jordan Schultz. He reported that this morning. DK Metcalf has missed 2 games with this injury recently. If you just want to look at a comparison for how serious this injury is. If it's very mild, like you can play through it. It's possible that AJ Brown plays through this injury.
It's
He's been known to play through
funny.
injuries, but you do get, stiff and stuff. Like I think it's possible that he misses a game or 2. That would be my guess is what happens with AJ Brown here. But he didn't tear his ACL, which is more than we can say for a million other receivers in this league.
100%. And again, like I feel like anytime somebody sprains their MCL, I always love giving my backstory here, but like MCL sprains are a bitch to deal with, straight up. Like you have no lateral movement ability. It really inhibits your overall ability to move your leg because, I mean, if you're thinking about it, the MCL is that inside ligament of your knee. If you can't simply have it at full capacity, well, guess what? Trying to make cuts, trying to, for example, AJ Brown, how many in breakers, how many dig routes does he run in this offense?
That's all he runs.
How is he going to do that with an inhibited MCL?
He's a warrior. It's very possible he plays through the injury, but yeah, exactly. It bears 100%. The weight, and it is difficult to
specifically cut. With turning. Yes.
Yeah. Specifically for receivers too. I actually think it might be like, it's easier for a quarterback to play through. It's easier for probably even a tight end to play through as well. It's running backs and receivers that gotta make cuts like that. It's difficult to do. Chris Olave, speaking of receivers, just dropping like flies. Concussion number 5 of his career now. And it looked bad and it was bad. And
it looked
Michael
awful.
Thomas, Chris Olave's brother, everybody calling for Derek Carr's head. Just this morning, Dennis Allen was fired as well. The Saints are whatever, like if the Cowboys are Joever, the Saints are like beyond. Like they're lost at sea right now.
And I'm still thinking about that Fugazi start to the year.
Danny called them the New Orleans.
Dude, I saw them. I saw them on their. Dude, you should have seen how good their offense looked in week 2. I can't even lie. It looked like a fucking
against the Cowboys defense. Was it the Cowboys defense?
It was against the Panthers and Cowboys. But like even still, like just the motion, the way their line was playing, like yeah, I mean, I'll take that one on the chin. But with that being said, I'm not gonna make that joke. Never mind. That's pretty too sensitive. I was gonna say I'd take it on the chin like Olave yesterday, but
yeah, I mean Olave took it on the chin yesterday, and it was a bad throw. And Derek Carr's done that to him more than once. And Shaheed also, if you look at his injury, the play he got injured on, it was also like Derek Carr caused the injury, and Michael Thomas was pretty quick to remind Saints fans and Saints brass that like get this guy the fuck out of here. And he's gonna be there unless they want to take a Deshaun Watson level cap hit and get rid of him.
He's got 1 more year left with guaranteed money, right?
Yeah,
that is not ideal. Funny, I actually sent this into the group chat, but in 2014, a young head coach, Dennis Allen, was fired midway through the season with his quarterback being Derek Carr. In 2024, same thing happened in a different team.
Yeah. The Saints are going to be selling players for sure. Lattimore is the big name that people are after. A lot of contenders needing corner help. I think Cam Jordan will definitely be on the block probably as well. They have players. Tyrann Mathieu is Tyrann Mathieu still on the fucking Saints?
Yeah.
I can't even remember. Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu maybe potentially on the trade block as well. This team's bad. Maybe Alvin Kamara's on the trade block. Who knows?
You know who's going to trade for Tyrann Mathieu, right?
The Chiefs?
I was going to say the Eagles because that's totally a player they would be targeting.
Yeah, I could totally see that. The Saints would never. I don't want this player. First of all, we're not buyers at the deadline. We never are. but we could use a corner really bad right now, and we were not going to. There's no way they would ever trade with the Saints, and I don't want fucking Lattimore on my team, but it is something that the Bucs should be targeting in free agency right now. They're not, or in the trade deadline right now. They're not going to, because we never like trading draft picks. But I digress. Somebody's going to trade for Lattimore. I would imagine he's probably good as gone on that team right now.
I mean, what's the point of holding your good players, given your cap situation, given your quarterback situation, given your team record situation?
Yeah. Also, like, what the fuck are you doing extending Alvin Kamara? Like, what? Like, good for Kamara. I mean, you know how hard it is to get a fourth contract as a running back?
What did he get, by the way? 38 opportunities this week against Carolina? 38? Was that what it was? I know he had 29 carries. Did he get 9 targets as well? 38 opportunities.
What are you doing, New Orleans? Like, why the hell are you extending Alvin Kamara? Let him go be somewhere where he can win.
But, dude, by the end of his contract, with all the touches they're going to load him up with, he's going to be dead.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't just have been like, okay, this season's not going well. Let's trade him at the deadline and let him have like a little swan song career ending like Derrick Henry's having in Baltimore later on in his career. Like, there's an outside shot Alvin Kamara could make the Hall of Fame if he has, 2 or 3 more good years.
Probably on track to already right now.
I don't know about that. His peak is definitely Hall of Fame caliber, but I think he would need some career resume stuff to
He's
help.
been good this year too, to be fair.
He has been, yeah. He would need a Super Bowl ring and probably some, rushing and receiving records and things of that nature.
Like, I'm trying to think, if they trade him out, it'd probably be to an AFC. Actually, they can't even trade him out. He just got extended.
No, that's what I mean. Like, why the hell did you extend him? Like, what are you doing?
That's a good point. Hypothetically, he doesn't get extended. Which team trades for him? It would probably be an AFC team. It'd probably be one in contention. I'm trying to think right now. Like,
the Bengals, probably.
I think Chase Brown's better than him right now.
I guess, but like, I think
we'll talk about Chase Brown in a minute.
The Bengals think they need running back help. I've seen them floated as a running back trade candidate as well. I could see. Trying to think. Like, I could see. I don't think Buffalo would be trading for a running back. I don't think Houston would be trading for a running back. Kansas City probably not, unless they're really worried about Pacheco coming back healthy. I think Hunt is playing well for them in the meantime. There's maybe some teams on the fringe in the AFC that could use running back help. Like, there's maybe the Steelers. Like, I don't know. Like, the Steelers probably wouldn't.
Jacobs we got to talk about this. I didn't actually see the end of that game. Jacobs ended up leaving.
Did he re-aggravate the ankle injury?
Not sure.
That would be my guess. I mean, he had an ankle injury coming into the game.
Chase Brown keeps this up, by the way. He will absolutely be another Jersey I target.
Oh, yeah. Got to do it. Anyway, speaking of injuries, we actually just got word on one more of them, which is why it's pretty timely we're talking about this. Drake London, staying in the NFC South, suffered a hip pointer, which is basically, for those of you who don't know, it's just basically a bruise on your hip. Like, he landed hard on the touchdown grab. He was on the exercise bike. He was kind of working it out. Most guys can play through this injury, and it didn't look serious. It did look pretty serious, but it has been officially diagnosed now that he will have tests done. But the belief is that he suffered a hip pointer injury per Ian Rappaport. So he could miss a game or two from this, but I can't imagine it'll be longer than that. Well, that's what I said. Sorry, not it did look serious. It didn't look serious, is what I'm saying. Like, it looked serious. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you said it did look serious. Initially on the fall, like, it looked, okay, like, what's going on here? And then when he was on the bike, like, he was moving on the sideline. It didn't really look like he was upset on the sideline. It more so looked like, okay, like, we're taking it easy with you. Like, I don't know if they needed to, if he would have come back into the game, because, like, again, they were up basically for the majority of the second half. Like, Cowboys, I believe, were either up or very close at halftime, and then after half, like, the Falcons really took away with the game. But I am curious if it was a close game, if he would have returned. That's another thing. On the touchdown, he did a headstand. Possibility that if it was a close game, he might have. One thing I will say about Jacobs too, if he did re-aggravate the ankle injury, if I could make a list of the top 5 players I trust to play through injuries, Josh Jacobs might be number 1, legitimately. Like, he's an Iron Man. Guy's literally an Iron Man. Like, I think of guys like off the top of my head, like, I know Mike Evans can do it. I know, there's players out there. AJ Brown can do it. Like, there's guys that are really, really good at playing through injuries that can manage their pain and just play through it. And Josh Jacobs, like, literally played with separated shoulders and busted ankles and swollen knees in Vegas for years. Like, I'm not worried about him, tweaking his ankle or whatever. For sure. We also have listed here Keon Coleman with the wrist injury, wearing a brace. Was there any more intel on the injury? Because, like, oddly enough, Amari Cooper literally missed this week's game with a wrist injury as well. Yeah. And speaking of wrist injuries too, it looks like Keon Coleman had like a brace or something on his injury. Like, I saw this, unless this was Amari Cooper that Dr. Morse was talking about. He didn't actually specify if he was talking about Coleman or Cooper, but he said somebody on Buffalo was wearing a brace for their injury, which is not a good sign. I'm assuming that was Cooper.
Well, yeah, I mean, Cooper didn't play, but let me try to find more information
If
on
Coleman
Coleman.
hurt his wrist also, that's weird that they would both suffer that. But I think it might have been Cooper he was talking about.
It looked like what did he do? So he ate a shot to the head. He
No,
left the
it was
game with a
probably
wrist injury. Yeah. Dude, I just saw this tweet. So 4 starters for the Bills: Christian Benford wrist injury, Amari Cooper wrist injury, Dewan Smoot wrist injury, and Keon Coleman wrist injury. What the fuck
okay.
is?
So it was Coleman then he was talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought
Both
because I
him and
heard
Amari
that
have
I was
wrist
like, oh, he's
injuries.
wearing a brace on the sideline. That's not usually a good thing. I'm like, wait, are you talking about Coleman? Or are you talking about Cooper? Because they both have wrist injuries. Then apparently.
They both have wrist injuries, and Keon was the one wearing the brace. So
Well,
they
Khalil Shakir is going to the moon. Um, but yeah,
he's the only one with wrists left.
that's not good. That's not good, by the way. Like a wrist injury when you're wearing a brace right away, like he said, like that can be like IR potential for
Yeah.
Keon Coleman if that happens.
Especially as a wide receiver. Good luck trying to catch a ball when you have an inhibited wrist.
Especially if you're Keon Coleman, who all you can do is like make acrobatic catches. Like,
Yeah, no, I feel you. Um, but yeah, what other injuries do we have listed here? I mean, Jonathan Taylor, Dr. Morse thinks he re-injured the ankle injury. There's no current detail. So if you do have Jonathan Taylor, really be monitoring the market right there because not good. Obviously, he missed a couple games with that ankle injury. If he did re-injure it, that's not a good sign moving forward. So, and then we also have Xavier Legette. He ended up returning. He did hurt his hand. I don't know what it is with these rookie receivers hurting their hands, but fuck.
yeah, no, he did. Also, we have Jermaine Burton. Somebody mentioned it in the chat here. Jermaine Burton is out indefinitely with pajamas. That's the injury that he has right now. Also, he hurt his head. He hurt his head, and I think he got a knuckle to the head or something like that, and now he's a knucklehead. So Jermaine Burton is just I've never seen a receiver. I saw Davis Maddock tweet this out, and I thought it was funny as hell. He's like, I've never seen a receiver not get playing time and do anything on the field to piss off his coaching staff and have his season be so Joever. It's insane. Like, it's not like he went out there and dropped a bunch of passes and, whatever.
Every time he's been on the field, he's looked good.
like, what the hell's wrong with this dude, man? Like, just fucking figure your shit out.
Yeah, I mean, hell, if Jermaine Burton wanted to donate both of his wrists to Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper, respectively, maybe that would actually make more of a difference than what he's doing.
Also give his knee to JJ McCarthy and let's sell off Jermaine Burton for spare parts to get some players back.
I think there is a black market for that, to be fair.
Yeah, like get one knee to Rashee Rice, get the other knee to Stephon Diggs. Like let's get Jermaine Burton spare parts here. I'm joking, obviously. Don't take offense to this, but he's just a useless player at this point in time. So
can we give? Maybe I don't want to give his brain to a Olave because it might be in worse condition.
Jesus Christ. Let's get into some more takeaways here. There was like a bunch of guys that I just thought we should react to because there was like a bunch of blow up games from guys that like don't always have blow ups or like maybe this is indicative of like their rest of season rankings kind of going up. So let me just ask you this. We're going to play a game of like riser, or is this just like a random spike week?
Yeah.
Jackson Smith-Njigba was the highest scoring player of anybody in week 9. 37
the biggest sell high in fantasy.
The biggest. So you're saying random spike, not riser.
Like his usage was very good, but with that being said, am I going to trust 8 games of usage for him or 1 game of usage for him? He was actually used across the field, but I think it's more of a product that DK Metcalf wasn't on the field. So if people are valuing JSN as being a big time riser moving forward, again, I was high on him coming to the year. I've had JSN in multiple leagues. I've seen how he's been used prior to this game. If people are willing to give you top 24 level price tags for him now because of this big week, sorry, buddy, you're off the team.
Yeah, and you wouldn't hold out hope at all that this is a second-year player, maybe getting a confidence boost and starting to play at a higher level. He was getting good downfield usage for the first time this pretty much all season. I mean, we saw one other game where he got like a bunch of targets, but for the most part, it's been like 6 or 7 disappointments and then 2 games where you've been happy that you started him.
And when we've seen as volatile of a market as we have for JSN, when we have an opportunity to sell high, we have to, like, straight up. Like, and again, I think when DK Metcalf is fully healthy, DK Metcalf is going to go back to that wide receiver 1 route diet, and we could potentially see JSN being relegated back to what he was when DK Metcalf was on the field. So for me, again, like, I think JSN's got the ability. Like, I like the prospect, but I mean, I'm going to trust the year and a half of sample size that he's been a Wan'Dale Robinson type of player. That's what he's
like
been.
if he was wide receiver 31 rest of season coming into this week, he's wide receiver 26 now. Like he went up. Yeah. He's a riser based on the performance that he showed. But is he wide receiver 14 now? No, absolutely not. And I don't think anybody's going to be overreacting to that degree, but maybe you can tier up to a wide receiver 2 type off of some bad games.
Yeah, and if you can package JSN with Tank Dell and get Nico Collins right now in Dynasty, you have to be doing that in every single league.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that sentiment. And I think if JSN is suddenly viewed as a top 15 dynasty receiver after this week, like go and get Jaden Reed or Romo Dunze or who, like whatever receiver you could get up from JSN to get, you should go do that, honestly.
Yep.
And Chris Olave maybe too, because he's been disappointing and he's got concussions and, things of that nature. That's probably what I would be doing with JSN right now. I agree with your takes there. I mean, this is obviously, we know these guys are studs, but Saquon and Achane, are they how high in the running back ranking? Like Saquon was like RB1 or 2 coming into the season. I guess Achane is the better question here.
So I'll obviously be tinkering with my rest of season rankings today, tomorrow, Wednesday, getting them fully updated for you guys on the site. But if we're looking at the running back position, so Saquon, again, I'm going to have to move him to RB1. I had Breece Hall there. I mean, there's just no usage concerns with Saquon, whereas Breece every now and then, like he'll get sniped on the goal line or they'll throw a play action pass mixed in there. Like, so I think Saquon Barkley's got the safer projection, but I do think Breece, like he's going to be my RB2. People are going to be like, how the hell do you have Breece so high? Look at Breece Hall's rest of season schedule. I think he has to be up there. In terms of Achane himself, I would take him over Kyron, Walker, Bijan, Gibbs. Like Monty got a ton of work this week. I think Achane's got to be valued as a top 5 running back rest of the season.
I think he might be 2.
I have him at 4 right now. And honestly, I think I would take him over Mixon, so he'd be 3 for me.
Yeah, I think we should start having the conversation versus him and Breece. Like, am I worried about Breece Hall? Do I think he's going to bounce back? Not really, but is Achane just objectively a better bet right now, given the receiving work that he's getting? I think he is.
You won't hear me arguing with that. Like, I think it's a very close call. And in fact, if you wanted to lean Achane because he doesn't have a bye versus Breece does have a bye, I think that's perfectly reasonable as well. I think at the very minimum, and a guy that when do we have to prop Henry up in our rankings, like straight up? Like we can't rank him at RB8, RB9 rest of the season.
No, he's going to be like RB5 or 6, I think, for me.
Like,
who would you rather have, Bijan or Derrick Henry?
I just moved Derrick Henry to 5, and I have him over Gibbs and Bijan right behind him.
I would still rather have Bijan. I think what it's gonna end up being for me is it's gonna end up being Saquon, Achane, Breece, Bijan, Kyron, and then Henry is what I think it's gonna end up being. So you need 6 for me, and then I have Mixon at 7.
So the way I have it right now is Saquon, Breece, Achane, Mixon, Henry, Gibbs, Bijan, Kyron, Kenneth Walker. That's my top 9 in that row.
Yeah, it's tough. Walker's got to I hope you sold high on Walker just because the Seahawks just won't commit to the run game, honestly. Like, they're just throwing the ball like crazy, and they can't really run the ball effectively. Their offensive line's horrible. I saw one play, Winks tweeted this out. It was like the 4th and 1 play at the end of the game or whatever. Like, the whole Seahawks offensive line went down like dominoes on the run play. Like, they can't block.
And I think there will be positive regression moving forward because, like, dude, Walker's still been a bell cow running back. They do have their bye. Maybe they get a little healthier up front. I will say, though, it is a very up and down schedule to finish the year for the Seahawks. So at the 49ers, which is going to be tough to commit to the run game there. But, I mean, to be fair, Walker had 20.9 in the last matchup against San Fran. But who knows? Like, on face value, that's not the most ideal matchup. Arizona twice, which, again, he's got the opportunity to punch in touchdowns in that game. I don't mind that. At the Jets, which is probably going to be a lower scoring, lower pace type of game environment. And then you got Green Bay and Minnesota in weeks 15 and 16 to finish off week 17 at Chicago. So if you do have Kenneth Walker, again, it does suck because he's coming off 2 bad games. But if people still view him as a top 5 running back rest of the season and you can transition him into a ton of those other running backs that we just talked about, I think he'd be in your best interest because that is a very daunting closing schedule.
It's almost not even worth like arguing about some of these players because like people are saying like Michael just said, what about CMC? It's like, well, McCaffrey's probably like a top 6 running back rest of the season. Also, it's just that like how much do you factor in? Like,
I have him at 10 right now because I'm still concerned we haven't seen him yet.
So you, in a vacuum right now, you would take Derrick Henry over Christian McCaffrey if faced with the choice.
Very easily.
Take Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker over Christian McCaffrey.
Kenneth Walker's the combo.
The risk is worth it to me that I would take McCaffrey over every running back in fantasy not named Saquon, Achane, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, or Kyron Williams. I would have him actually, like, I guess I lied there. I would have McCaffrey at 6 over Henry and Mixon.
I wouldn't.
They're all old running backs, but the realistic
question I have: we are expecting McCaffrey like with that ranking, to be better than what Mixon and Henry have been all year, which have been top like 20 plus point per game running backs. When
Yeah, and I think that's reasonable to expect out of McCaffrey, to be honest.
See, I don't know if I do, man. Like
We're talking about a future Hall of Fame player here. It's not like I'm just projecting an upside scenario that doesn't exist.
That's assuming he's going to be fully healthy for the rest of the season,
which is a big assumption. And I would understand if somebody was like, I can't rank McCaffrey higher than like 8, 9, 10, 11, something like that.
Well, I mean, I have him at 10, and again, I understand the upside there. It's just like, honestly, that's just more an optimistic viewing that I think Walker, Kyron, Bijan, and up have just separated from the rest of the running back position.
Yeah, they have. But like also the realistic scenario exists where 1 week from today, when we're doing the week 10 recap, McCaffrey is RB1 rest of season.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility, very much so. If McCaffrey comes back and he's his full workload and he has 3 touchdowns in his first game back, which I think is reasonable to expect because the 49ers have been very patient with him. Like a lot of fantasy doctors expected this injury to only last until week 6 to 8, and it's now week 10 that we're going into. He's had ample rest. He's had chances to come back. Like I'm pretty confident that McCaffrey is going to be healthy.
Okay. That should make you more optimistic on Jonathan Brooks.
I guess, but like Brooks is also not on the 49ers and doesn't have a future Hall of Fame resume.
Hey, I'm playing with you because we are having conversations today.
Yes. The point of they've been patient with him applies to both players, if that's what you're talking about. Sure. Couple other guys I just want to react to here. Zay Flowers, 29.7 PPR points. He's had a couple really good games outside of the Buccaneers game where he left early. He's been really good. And I've been very much on the Zay Flowers train for a while now. He hasn't left my top like 18 dynasty receivers at any point this season.
I've been up and down. The usage has been a little bit up and down as well. But I mean, I got to give him credit, dude. The guy's playing like a superstar wide receiver. Like I think at this point, is he a top 12 wide receiver in real life?
If he is, then he's got to be a top 12 dynasty receiver. If you're saying that,
I mean, like he's
23 years old.
I get the reason why I think like just like off of real life value, fantasy value. I do think it gets impacted. Deontay comes in, Mark Andrews comes in, lower passing volume offense overall. Like I think that does impact.
I don't care about that stuff. If I'm being 100% honest,
I do more than you.
Might be that good.
He could be. Now I am trying to figure out where I want to rank Olave rest of the season, which is very difficult to do. But anyways, let's go back to the live stream. I could figure out my freaking rest of season rankings after.
And I mean, we'll talk about some more guys that have had some blowups, and then we'll rattle through some more takeaways here. Chase Brown, you have in one of your takeaways, so we can kind of just talk about his 26.7 PPR point performance. Had a monster workload with Zach Moss out of the lineup. Like I said, the Bengals have been kind of rumored a little bit to be in the running back market as far as like trade deadline stuff. But Chase Brown looked incredible in that game. He looked really good.
32 touches in that game. Again, we'll talk about some of these workload like differences that we've seen this week compared to weeks past. But I mean, shout out Chase Brown. I did start him in the Flock League. I'll talk about my Flock League team as the final point there. Also, I appreciate you for looking out for me, Jared. When you're stressed out, sometimes you need the relief. But hey, I digress. Yeah, some big time performances from unheralded players. I mean, not guys that we were considering as top 10 options that were giving you top 5 level ceilings. Like you mentioned here, obviously Chase Brown, we just talked about. Saquon and HN were expected, but I mean, still, they look phenomenal. Deserve their flowers. Zay Flowers, like you said. J.K. Dobbins as well. Cortland Sutton, like a lot of big time fantasy performances. Really, this week was the classic studs and duds week in fantasy, where if you look at all of your lineups across the board outside of maybe dynasty leagues, it was a mixed bag. You either had guys like Kyle Pitts giving you 2.2 in your lineup, or you had guys like Chase Brown giving you 26.7. And yes, I am directly referencing my Flock League team.
Yeah, no, my home league team was like Breece Hall gave me 11 points on Thursday night, and Jackson Smith-Njigba had 38 or whatever it was. Yeah. It was like just random performances. I would be remiss if I didn't continue to pound the victory lap button for J.K. Dobbins, by the way, 24.5 PPR points. Let's give it up for the number one sleeper of your boy coming into the season, now putting himself up into top 12 running back scoring after this week, and he was available in the double-digit rounds. We love to see it for J.K. Dobbins, and officially Roto Surgeon has gone AFK on my attempts to make him sound like a moron for saying that J.K. Dobbins was a sell.
Hey, that's my guy.
So here's the timeline of events, just to give you guys an idea. J.K. Dobbins, waste of a pick is what he called him in the offseason. Great. Okay. You're entitled to your opinion. First of all, my point was that there's no waste of a pick in the 17th round of a best ball draft or in the 12th round of a redraft league where J.K. Dobbins was going. Then after week 1 and 2, he's a sell high. I said I wouldn't do that if I were you. He's going to continue getting more work. He continues to get more work and has rattled off, I don't know, 4 more games since then of top 20, top 15 type of performances. J.K. Dobbins is just good. Like he always has been.
Hey, I mean, shout out Kev. I fucking love Kev. But yeah, no, he was wrong on the Dobbins front. But I still remember a couple years ago when we made the Ayuk versus Debo, and I had to change my Twitter header to Debo Samuel for a month. So shout out Kev. Very jokes. You mentioned your sleepers. I got to mention a couple of mine. So out of my top 5 sleepers, 2 of the guys listed on that video, Xavier Legette, again, solid. You hit on him in like round 13. But the main one, man, Tyrone fucking Tracy, who went in the last round of probably all of your drafts. Maybe even went undrafted in a lot of your leagues. He's on that video. So I gotta give my flowers too. We were just cooking. You obviously cooked on Dobbins as well.
I swear to God, like, please tell me if you guys know another person who has never left the J.K. Dobbins train like me. Like, I swear I might be the only one left.
You want to hear who my breakouts were too, by the way?
Who?
So Rome hasn't worked out, but listen to these other 4. JSN, who, again, if you've followed him so far, maybe you could sell high on him now, and he's made value based off where you drafted him, so we'll take that. And even before that, was he, like, smashing it? No. But, like, he paid off where you drafted him. Rashid Rice would have been a home run, for the record. And then the other 2 were James Cook and Devon Achane. So we're feeling good as well, man. All I'm hearing is if you trusted the FSC superlative videos, you're probably in a good spot in your leagues.
Yeah, I mean, my sleeper vid was J.K. Dobbins number 1, Jalen McMillan number 3, who's at the very least a good waiver addition. Jalen Polk was number 2. That's an L that I'll definitely have to eat there. Rico Dowdle was number 4, and Dontavian Wicks was number 5, who at different points this year have been big time waiver additions. And then my breakout candidates, my number 1 was Malik Neighbors. I would say that's probably worked out pretty well. Javonte Williams and Kyle Pitts were 2 and 3, which have been a little up and down. I would say generally they've been okay at cost, but not great picks. And then Zay Flowers was number 4, who's been really good. And then Xavier Worthy was number 5. And I had McConkey / Worthy kind of when I was going into that video. And I was like, maybe I should do McConkey. Maybe I should do Worthy. He was an honorable. McConkey was basically an honorable mention for me because I was like, you know what, I'll go with Worthy.
Hey, if I'm going to talk about the hits that I got, I should also mention that on the worst picks in every round video, the thumbnail is literally Derrick Henry. So
let's eat some humble pie for a second because let me go to the bus video hold on. Did we do bus videos? We didn't do bus videos.
No, you did absolute best picks in every round. I did absolute worst picks, and we were going to do bus, but I'm like, dude, if I'm already talking about the worst picks, we may as well just segment it like that. That was bad. Derrick Henry on the thumbnail. No.
Yeah.
Not great.
The best pick in every round for me was Breece Hall in round 1 and Garrett Wilson in round 1. So that doesn't look great. Isaiah Pacheco in round 2. I mean, he just got hurt. Nico Collins was my other round 2 player. Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle in round 3. Jalen Waddle not looking like a good pick. James Cook, Malik Neighbors in round 4. That looks pretty solid. Round 5 was T. Higgins and George Kittle. That looks pretty good. Rashee Rice and Kyle Pitts in round 6. That looks pretty good. Jaden Reed and Romo Dunze in round 7. Not bad. Hit and miss results there, but I would say generally take down that worst picks in every round.
Jonathan Taylor take down. Yeah, no, that the Henry one was bad, but Taylor in round 1, I would say out of the round 1 options outside of Christian McCaffrey, he's probably been the worst pick. Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
round 1 guys.
Taking him in round 1 for sure was a little egregious.
The other one in round 2 outside of Henry was Devontae Adams, who if you took him in round 2, good luck, soldier. Who else here? You know what we should do? Ethan said just Derrick Henry on the thumbnail makes you guys look bad. What we'll do is we'll just throw Devontae on the thumbnail. Yeah. I mean, like Rashad White was in here. He was going in round 4. That was a sand eater pick as well. Michael Pittman Jr. in round 3. Okay, so basically outside of Derek, Alvin Kamara and James Conner is pretty bad too.
That's not great. Well, I mean, James Conner hasn't been that good, but at cost, he was probably fine.
Yeah, round 5 is probably what's about worth what he's been doing. But Well, all in good fun. If we're gonna take our victory laps, we got to take our L's as well. But you mentioned Chase Brown, and the other takeaway that I actually had listed here, I'll just go right to it. Emerging backs taking on new workhorse roles. We just mentioned Chase Brown, 32 touches, over 25 PPR points. I don't think Zach Moss is gonna not only get the job back, but I would be shocked if Chase Brown loses much work moving forward with what he showed, the efficiency, the ability in the passing game as well. Like, why even remotely play Zach Moss for snaps, especially if Chase Brown's showing you some life and pass protection?
Yeah, no, he was really good. He was really good. And thankfully, this was always the thesis with Chase Brown. I mean, there was an outside shot he was going to win this job in week 1, but I did think it was going to take a couple weeks because Zach Moss is the trusty, reliable veteran kind of nonsense or whatever. And we've seen Chase Brown, I think, on like 4 or 5 different occasions this year, put up top 20 performing weeks. And now it looks like he's going to be a little bit more projectable from like a managed league standpoint. He had been a good pick in best ball prior to this point because you didn't have to choose when to start him. But from a managed league perspective, I think he's going to be a little bit more easy to identify when to actually start.
100%. Tyrone Tracy as well, 17 touches and out touches Devin Singletary, 17-7. And I believe over 50%, maybe even like, I want to say 5 or 6 of those touches for Singletary actually came in like the first quarter. Like the
Giants was out there a little early on. It was weird. And Tracy, it's annoying because one of my pick'ems was all hits except for Tracy having under 2.5 receptions. I thought he was going to catch a couple passes in that game. It didn't end up happening.
Yeah, it mostly happened in the carry game. Rico Dowdle, I mean, speaking of the Cowboys, I think this is another take I feel so vindicated by. Everybody's like, oh, Rico Dowdle this, Rico Dowdle that. Like, the Cowboys rushing game is a mess. And it could very well be a mess moving forward, especially with no Dak and Lamb on the field. But in terms of who is very clearly the best running back on the Cowboys roster, I've been firm with Rico Dowdle for how long? And he finally sees 73% of the snaps. He's averaged over 5 yards per carry in his last 3 games played. Outside of that blip on the radar because Zeke wanted to cry about touches against Detroit, he's been really good in this last month or so. Like, if you bought Rico Dowdle low, you probably got him at RB4 price tags. And based off the workload he's seen, even with Dak and Lamb off the field, like, it may be inefficient, it may look ugly, but I know he's going to get a majority workload in this offense moving forward.
Also, I swear to God, this will be the last victory lap I take, but my hero running back in my home league, do you want to know the running backs I drafted behind Breece Hall?
Let's hear it.
J.K. Dobbins, Chase Brown, Tyrone Tracy, and Rico Dowdle.
Yeah. I mean,
talk about building a low-cost running back 2 spot.
I mean, if I didn't trade Rico for Jonathan Brooks, that's basically what I did in the Flock League. So I did a hero. Obviously, I grabbed Breece. Dude, wait. You traded for Breece. So Breece Hall, Chase Brown, Tyrone Tracy, and Rico Dowdle were the guys you just said?
And Dobbins, yeah.
And Dobbins. Okay, so sans Dobbins, basically my core on the Flock League, other than the fact that I traded Dowdle for Brooks.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered this too. Whitner just said, made that Jamar trade I mentioned to you guys. I got Chase, and I think he ended up getting Chase in a 1, right? For Lamb in a 3rd.
Chase in a 2 for Lamb in a 3, I believe it was.
I thought it was a 1 that he mentioned.
I don't think you got a 1.
Either way, you got definitely a just-in-time trade, like you said there. So, but yeah, you know what's hilarious about my home league team, by the way? That hero RB build, I'm 3-6 after this week, unless Kelsey has nothing. And the reason I'm 3-6 is because all of my players keep getting injured in my fucking lineup. Drake London goes down this week. I'm going to lose because of it. Last week, Jordan Love goes down in my lineup and I lost because of it. Like, I've lost on Monday Night Football by like 2 points, like in 3 straight games.
We'll talk about my Flock League in a second, but like, assuming I'm able to win this week and get to 5-4, like, hopefully, knock on wood. Again, you guys will see the context in a second. Speaking of like guys just getting hurt in your lineup, how many fucking times has that happened to me this year in that league? Like, even like Wicks, one.
Now you just literally lost your mic cable mid-sentence. That was funny. But yeah, it's been. No, I still can't hear you yet. Nope, still can't. Danny's the only guy in the world that would get so passionate during a rant about his fantasy football injuries that he completely knocks his fucking mic cable out while he's yelling about his injuries on his team. That's funny as hell. Now you got to turn. Is your 48V on? Maybe that's why it's not working. Still can't hear you, brother. There you go.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I got passionate, yanked my head back, and it pulled down my focus right. So unfortunately there. And also he got a 1. Yeah, you're right. Holy.
Yeah, it was a 1. Yeah, remember I said it was like those guys are in the same tier. You get a 1 attached to either of them. It's free cash.
Yeah. I mean, I forget what I was talking about. That's okay. I think we can move on to the next topic here because I mean, like the other guy that I would say workload, Ramondre Stevenson looks like he's back after that struggle. 10 carries, I believe 5 targets in that game. Got the workhorse role. And I mean, if Drake May made a couple mistakes in terms of the turnovers, like the overtime pick wasn't great. The pick earlier in the game, not great. Like I'm not going to defend that. But at the end of the day, what we saw from Drake May is even when he's making mistakes in terms of the turnovers, dude, he is carrying that offense down the field on a week in, week out basis. And I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have watched the game. One of the most like weird box scores, because if you look at it, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, only 200 passing yards, like, oh, not a great game. Drake May literally the only reason they even got to overtime for the record, because that last play of the game, scrambling all over the place, making a play, throwing it across his body, ripping it on a rope, game-tying touchdown. It's like, yeah, would we have liked to see him go for the game-winning touchdown in overtime? Sure, I would much rather that instead of the pick that he threw. But man, I'm so excited that I have this guy on my Flock League team. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously Jaden Daniels is better than Drake May, at least at this point in time.
At this
but
point
I still feel vindicated that they're both good quarterbacks.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
Drake May he's dealing with nothing out there, man. You put Terry McLaurin on the Patriots, he'd have fucking 35 targets a game. The Patriots have nothing at receiver, absolutely nothing. We was like, oh, Pop Douglas might be a thing. Jalen Polk might be a thing. They all are below average receivers in the NFL.
100%. And I mean, the last one I listed here, Nick Chubb has to be considered a big buy low right now, right? Like,
I disagree. I saw you put that in there.
So?
I disagree, dude. Jerome Ford just massively outsnapped him.
You think so?
That was what I was worried about. I was like, hey, Nick Chubb might be a good buy low. Let's keep an eye on the usage here. But then
look at the touches.
Yeah, the touches were fine. But then when you look at the snap share and like how much the two guys were playing, we hadn't seen Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford on the field together this year, right? Because Ford was out the last 2 games with the injury that he suffered, and Nick Chubb obviously out for most of the season with the ACL recovery that he was coming off of. And then Jerome Ford outsnaps him 45% to 36% and took away like pretty much all of the like long down and distance stuff and actually a little bit of the short down and distance.
Can I add some context to that?
Nick Chubb to no routes or anything.
Can I add some context to that?
Sure.
They were down 20-3 at halftime.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, do you expect the Browns to be winning a lot of games?
No, but I don't expect them to be 23 down at halftime every week.
It wouldn't shock me if they're in negative game scripts 6 of their next 9 games or whatever for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it all depends on price, of course. But when I'm looking at it, a guy coming into his first 2 games of the year having 15 carries and 18 carries, I believe were the 2 totals.
Yeah,
Again,
it's good carry volume, but like he's a nothing burger on third down, and yeah, he's been not really the greatest receiving back over the course of his career, but he like literally was nothing. Like he ran like 16% of the routes with Ford on the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Also 18 opportunities and 16 opportunities in the last 2 games. Yeah, the snaps are a concern, but again, I don't expect them to be in that type of game script every single week. I think the main concern for Chubb, and again, this was always going to be a concern coming into the year, was that he's just not efficient at all, which again, did we expect him to look efficient in his first 3 games back after the ACL? No, he does have the bye week this week. Does have a potential favorable game script against New Orleans. Like, I think as bad as the Browns look, I'm taking the Browns in that game.
Yeah. No, I think you could definitely make the argument that he's a decent buy low if you can get him for like mid RB3 price tags. It's just the problem is his name is Nick Chubb, right? So in most people's leagues, people are just going to value him higher than they should because his name is Nick Chubb.
No, I think that's a good point. Also, going back to the game script point, and the game that they were actually very competitive and actually ended up winning 61% of the snaps last week against Baltimore. So I don't think all hope is lost. Again, fully depends on the price gauge in your league. I'm saying this because I don't think your league mate's going to value him all that high. They probably held him all year, get 3 games of a max of 10.2 PPR points in the last 3 weeks, and now has a bye. Like, I don't think he's going to cost more than like the RB33 on the market.
Yeah. No, that's definitely fair. I just think that's only in sharp leagues you're going to get that get that price tag for him. People in home leagues are going to be still delusional, thinking that his name is Nick Chubb and he's still going to be an elite running back in the NFL, which he could be, but it's looking a little bit more grim by the week. But I still don't think he's a terrible buy low. Speaking just like of injuries in general, one of my takeaways, I just wanted to like quickly highlight how crazy it's been this year for anti-running back bros like us and, best ball cognoscenti people where it's, hey, let's take as many wide receivers as possible and fuck the running back position and they all suck. Man, think of how many starting NFL wide receivers have gone down this year versus how many starting running backs have gone down. Normally, the landscape of the running back position by week 9, week 10 of the season is 10 running backs around the NFL were backups coming into the year who are now starters, right? Like that's typically what has happened this year. Other than Isaiah Pacheco and Christian McCaffrey, how many guys have like gone down for significant periods of time versus you look at receivers, you got Stephon Diggs down for the year. You got Rashee Rice down for the year, Nico Collins, Godwin, AJ Brown's banged up again and he's missed time. DK Metcalf is out. CeeDee Lamb's now injured. Cooper Kupp was injured for a long time. Puka Nacua was injured for a long time. Amari Cooper and Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins all got traded. So they're missing time learning new offensive playbooks. Then you got Malik Neighbors missing games. T. Higgins has missed games. Drake London's now banged up. Like the wide receiver position has never been this decimated, in my opinion.
Hear me out. Do you think this gives more credence to zero RB moving forward because we've seen in a landscape now with all these wide receivers breaking down, how many replacement level receivers have actually produced? Not many. Whereas we've seen in years past when these stud running backs go down, how many replacement level running backs produce? I think it almost strengthens the thesis, but it's like a process over results thesis where the results are dictating. If you just drafted the running backs, you're going to be in a better position. But on an even level, it's like, wide receiver injuries, the next man up is going to be less of an impact in your lineup versus for example, Chris McCaffrey, if you hit on Jordan Mason, that is significantly more valuable than hitting on Quentin Johnson, hypothetically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. I'm just so fascinated to see how
they're all hurt. Yeah.
best ball market reacts, how the ADP market in general reacts next year what were we saying coming into the year, right? It's like Isaiah Pacheco, guys like this, they would have been early to late second round picks at the very least in most other years. But because the best ball market was the way that it was, we were like getting them in like the third, fourth round in best ball drafts, sometimes fifth round of best ball drafts. I wonder if the opposite thing happens next year because of what happened results wise.
I hope
we're seeing Kamara and Mixon and like older running backs going in like the third round again. I don't think it'll happen on Underdog because people are just sick degenerate fucks that play on that site. But like in home league specifically, I could really see the running back position get right back up to where it had been before. And maybe that's correct. Like I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just interested to see what the landscape of the market looks like.
Telling you right now, if that's the impact on the market that it has because of 1 year of terrible wide receiver injuries in converse to the running backs, based off what we've seen in the 3-4 years prior, if it impacts the market that much, zero RB bros will be back up. I will tell you that.
What did in my number one draft strategy video, I break down the data since like 2015 of like how often running backs get injured. And like, there's going to be a blip on the radar season in 2024 about injury rates and stuff. But the question that I'm going to have for myself is the win rates might be, because they were actually trending positively in the direction of running backs in 2023 because we undervalued, the Rashad Whites and the James Cooks and the Alvin Kamara's who had good years in 2023, where the dead zone used to be became like a honeypot for like volume plays where they would normally have been third, fourth round picks, but they were going in like the seventh, eighth round.
Please give us the dead zone of 2021. Please.
Yeah, like we might get that. It's possible that we get the dead zone of 2021, but it's going to be one of these like weird yin and yang situations. It's like, okay, from 2015 to 2022, it behaved a certain way in 2023 and 2024. Maybe we overcorrected a little bit. Like it's going to be a weird fascination that I have with the market.
The only issue I may have is I think wide receivers will still be pushed up because there's no quarterbacks and tight ends pushing them down because the quarterback and tight ends have kind of evened off.
Yeah, well, I guess the difference will be that like the running backs are pushed up back to somewhere in between where they were this year and where they were in 2023. I think they're going to be somewhere like in between that.
Yeah, I mean, adversely throwing it back, I think next year, early quarterback, early tight end may be the wave because of how much they're pushed down after this year.
Yeah, it's very possible that we don't see like the guys that we normally would see pushed up because there's, a flat tier or whatever. People don't view it as like a significant advantage or whatever the case is.
Well, if this was 2021, Brock Bowers would be a first round pick in fantasy. Where do you think he goes in the market next year?
He'll be like a third or a fourth rounder probably.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like already if you're getting him there, like he is such a safe projection at tight end, and any other year he'd be a way higher draft pick.
Yeah, no, it's going to be weird, man. It's going to be a wild experience navigating like the best ball market. I mean, we kind of throw our notes in the garbage here, Danny, because we just went off the cuff for most of these takeaways. One thing I do want to talk to you about, because you mentioned it here, is the MVP race You have Lamar Jackson about to win his third MVP before his third playoff game.
Yeah.
I actually think there's maybe a different MVP right now. So I'll let you make the case. We'll go back and forth on the case for MVP right now. You start with Lamar and I'll go with my MVP.
The case for Lamar is outside of the Chiefs. I think everybody would comfortably say the Ravens are the next best team in the AFC right now. And I think you can even make the argument of the Chiefs and the Ravens being similar. The Ravens had a couple, upset losses where they lost to the Browns, where they lost to the Raiders. Very inconsequential for the bottom line. Everybody knows against good competition, the Ravens show up to play. And with Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's coming off a game 16 for 19, 280 through the air, 3 touchdowns in the passing game on Sunday. Actually wasn't even really tasked much as a rusher, but we've seen that throughout the year. On the year, he's averaging 22 touchdowns, total touchdowns, to 2 total turnovers right now. Picks plus fumbles combined, 2 total turnovers, 22 touchdowns. He's averaging 310 yards from scrimmage per game, passing plus rushing yards. And he's straight up far outpacing what he was able to do last year. Again, we've had the conversations on the channel. Did he really deserve the MVP last year? Like, statistically, both Dak and Purdy had better numbers, but the narrative favored Lamar, which is why he won the MVP. Whatever. He won the MVP. Straight up. Good for him. If he wins the MVP last year, but then doesn't win it this year, in a year he had a substantially better year, I'd be shocked. And the way he's playing right now, the way the Ravens are looking, Josh Allen, I think, is a very good shout in his own right. But if Lamar keeps doing what he's doing, dude, we could be looking at like one of the top 5 MVP years of all time. Straight up.
Yeah. And so Allen would be the guy that I would name MVP as it currently stands. I mean, he's got 17 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, which for Josh Allen to only have 2 interceptions is a big time step forward and a very scary sight for the rest of the NFL, because this is a gunslinger. This is a guy that we live with the turnovers with Josh Allen because we want the big plays. Dude, the guy is literally averaging like 8.6 adjusted yards per attempt right now, which is like an insane number. And to Lamar Jackson's credit, he's averaging 9.3 regular yards per attempt. So he's been like just absolutely outstanding as well. I just think with Josh Allen, it's been so incredible to see him like grow and mature as a player this year. Like, I think that's why I look at what the Bills are doing to some teams where they're like just beating the crap out of bad teams, and then they're winning close games against teams that match their level of intensity, like the game that we just saw with the Dolphins on Sunday. So it's like the Bills can win in all these different ways, and the definition of the award is most valuable player. And I think that Allen has been the most valuable player this year. I guess, Lamar has been extremely good too, but like there's also argument to be made that Derrick Henry is just as valuable to that offense.
I mean, I would argue last year Dak was more valuable to the Cowboys than Lamar was to the Ravens. But
yeah, I think that's again, if we're going by the definition of the award, it's interesting. And I also think that Joe Burrow deserves a shout out too. I mean, he's
probably 3 right now.
20-4 touchdown interception ratio. He has like the highest PFF passing grade outside of Lamar Jackson. And even though they weren't like winning games for the longest time, he threw 5 touchdowns this past week.
Yeah, I think at this point, the way that they've played this year, they're probably the top 4 quarterbacks in the league.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the big time throw rate of Josh Allen, though, by the way, is 6.7%, which is like the next closest guy that's like actually throwing consistently and like a regular starting quarterback is Justin Herbert's at 6.0%, which is crazy.
So the question is, who even is the 5th best quarterback in the NFL right now? Straight up. Because again, I'm giving Mahomes the benefit of the doubt. I'm throwing him in there because just based off this year, he wouldn't be up there. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because obviously he's the greatest quarterback that I've ever seen in my life. If you were to say like who is a quarterback 5 in the NFL right now, it's not CJ Stroud. I would say Justin Herbert. Yeah, I would agree.
Herbert right now, the way he's played the last month, he's been outstanding. He was not good for the first month of the season, but it was a new system. It was a new, thing. I think Hurts has been really good in the last couple of weeks as well. I don't know if I would say he's playing as well as Justin Herbert at this point in time, but he has played well and he's played better in recent weeks. So I think you could definitely make an argument for Hurts there. But yeah, Herbert has played really, really well the last couple of games.
Yeah, no, that's probably who I would lean to. And again, I've always been a Herbert bro. I think you know that as well. I've always been high on Herbert. I mean, Herbert is my Trevor Lawrence to make our comparisons to the guys that we just love. Yeah. And it's funny because they both like physically.
They're never good at the same time. Also,
they both have similar makeup, and they never can be good at the same time. It's like they transfer powers between each other based off the stature they each have.
Yeah, no, it's wild. But yeah, the quarterback landscape's starting to come. You know what I'm really excited for? And I'm always really excited for this, but I am really excited for playoff best ball drafts this year.
Oh,
I don't know why. I'm just so excited to see the landscape of the playoff picture because I think this year more than any, It's like
more ambiguous.
It's more ambiguous. And like, yeah, there's a top team in the NFC. It's the Detroit Lions. There's a top team in the AFC. It's the Kansas City Chiefs because they're going to have home field advantage, at least as it currently stands. But there's, I don't know if I remember like a third to fifth best team in the conference in either conference being so ambiguous. Normally it's like, here's the clear top 4 teams, or here's the clear top 5 teams, or whatever. It's like, here's the clear 1 and 2 maybe in each conference right now. And then whoever else.
Like, dude, are like the Falcons the third best team in the NFC right now? I don't think you can completely say no.
No, I don't think you can. And I mean,
the Niners
healthy and stuff, like you maybe put them as the third best team, and maybe they're overrated, maybe they're not. Like,
but if they're the third best, who's the second best team in the NFC? The Eagles?
Yeah, probably. Or the Commanders, maybe.
Commanders?
Yeah.
Like,
it's weird. Both conferences are like very strange. Like, I think definitively outside of the Ravens, and they were the Browns in 1995 and prior. The Browns.
Okay, Grandpa.
I'm kidding. The Ravens and the Chiefs are the clear 2 best teams in the AFC, but the Bills are very close behind them. And even though the Bengals record is 4-5, I think they're very close behind them. And then the NFC, it's like Detroit is the clear best team, but then throw them all up in a hat with like all these other teams that like the Packers are pretty good. The 49ers could maybe, once they have McCaffrey on the field, they could be the second best team in the NFC. Like there's the Commanders are playing well right now. The Eagles are playing well right now. You can't really count out the Vikings. They have a good team right now. Like it's weird. The Falcons are playing well, as you said too. It's a strange conference, the NFC specifically.
Yeah. Very, very weird. We'll go into your 4th takeaway, and we mentioned some teams that maybe have a chance. We'll get to the teams that just have, as you listed here, piss you off. Who
and I'm going to rattle through these really fast because we got to get to the Dynasty Trades and some quick waiver stuff as well. But Saints, enjoy your dirt nap. Bye. See ya. Don't want to watch you for the rest of the season. Dennis Allen's gone. Derek Carr sucks. Chris Olave's got his 5th career concussion. I don't want to watch the Saints on primetime ever again. I never need to see this team on primetime again for the rest of the year. Bury him in the 1 p.m. slate every single week. Bears, until they fire Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, I don't need to see you again either. Yeah. What are you looking at? You seem confused by something.
Sorry, I just read Car Chisel's comment, and I'm trying to find it. Sorry, my bad.
Moss out indefinitely. Oh, wow.
That's what he said. Eric Hall suffered a torn ACL. I saw that. Okay. Sorry, keep going. My bad. I was trying to find where that guy actually got posted.
Okay. Bears fire Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron immediately because Caleb Williams, someone asked, is he just a bust? I'm like, I just think it's like one of the most poorly called offenses in the NFL. I mean, Odunze had over 100 yards, which is great. And DJ Moore still makes plays anytime he gets thrown the football. But like, oh, God, I just hate what the hell the Bears are doing to Caleb Williams right now. And they need to get him out of there ASAP. The Indianapolis Colts, a lot of people. What's up?
Schefter 10 minutes ago, McCaffrey on track to play week 10. We expected it, but got confirmed from him. Sorry, okay. Continue.
Colts, everyone decided to rail them on Twitter the last 24 hours or so because you sit Richardson. Richardson, obviously a raw quarterback, comes into the season comes into this game playing only 10 career starts, and they benched him for Joe Flacco, who scored like 6 offensive points or something like that in this game. And the offense looks pretty dysfunctional. Josh Downs plays like 70% of the snaps or something like that. And he's literally your best player right now on offense. Michael Pittman like needs to be on IR, not in football games right now. And Adonai Mitchell has like 1 play a week where he looks like he should be absolutely a starting receiver and is not. And if Pittman was out, he would be. So I don't know what the hell's going on with this Colts team. Are they going to go back to Richardson at some point? I tend to think that it was just a bad game for Flacco, and they'll probably just roll with him for another little bit of time.
But why though? Sorry. I got to get this part of the rant here. Why is that? Like, what do we actually expect from a Joe Flacco led fucking Colts team? Are we expecting them to make a playoff run? Are we expecting them to make the divisional round? Because if not, why is he out there? Seriously, we don't have expectations for this to be a good team. We don't expect this to be a 10 plus, 11 plus win team at this point. They're a mediocre football team. I'd rather be mediocre and give my 22-year-old quarterback reps than fucking be mediocre and have the fucking, 40-year-old Flacco at this point? How old is he?
Yeah, he's like,
what's he do?
Your ceiling is like you get a 6 or a 7 seed. If Flacco, because Flacco, for what it's worth, hasn't played well, had played well prior to this week, right? He had played better than Richardson. Unequivocally, he was better. So if he has a better game going forward or a couple better games going forward, you could feel okay about the Colts' chances to get a 6 or a 7 seed if that's what you're driving at. But like you said, as I've been as critical on Anthony Richardson as anybody. And if this is what it looks like with Flacco, you can't play him. Like, you have to play Richardson if this is what it looks like.
We got a statue quarterback that can't evade pressure behind a line that's been underperforming. And we saw the effect on the run game that not having Richardson there did. JT, the 3 games prior, 100 plus rushing yards. Yesterday, 3.3 yards per carry with Flacco?
Yeah, I mean, he rushed for almost 100 yards against the Steelers, the only game that he played with Flacco prior to that. Like, I don't know. I tend to think that Flacco is still going to be just fine as the starter, and he's probably going to be a better quarterback than Richardson, to be honest. Like, I know that sounds
even
harsh.
If he is, though, even if he's better than Richardson right now.
Richardson, I get it. But, like, I just think he is going to be better going forward.
Maybe. I mean, it helps the passing game. If you have fantasy players in this passing game, you probably want Flacco out there. But with that being said, for the betterment of the team, okay, maybe your win projection instead of 7 or 8 wins with Flacco drops to 5 to 6 wins with Anthony Richardson. At least you got closure that you don't have your future quarterback on the roster.
Yeah.
And you get a better pick.
Yeah, well, and like, here's the other thing too. Like, the Colts, if they go with Flacco the rest of the year, what do they do in 2025? Are they drafting another quarterback? Are they, like, you know what I mean? Like, you also have this
give yourself closure on Rivers.
Are in the same place right now. It's like, you can't, if you want to start the veteran, that's fine, sure. If you want to use him to, like, get you into the playoffs or whatever the fuck you think is going to happen, but, like, you are then tasked with next year. You're going to need to be like, okay, so what do we do with Bryce Young now? What do we do with Anthony Richardson now? Like, they don't know. You don't know because you didn't play them.
But, like, if you play them and they look objectively bad, you get closure and you can move on with your franchise. That's the whole point. That is the whole. I'm sure even the most pro Anthony Richardson people out there, yeah, maybe they expect him to completely turn it around, look like a star quarterback. I think their basis of argument is, if you don't know if he's your franchise quarterback, and you're probably leaning no at this point, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's only been 7 games.
I tend to think
Anthony Richardson was given less.
To be honest, I tend to think that. But, like, you
probably the case.
Once you hit that button that you're benching the guy, he stays on the bench. So if you think there's even a sliver of a doubt that he's going to get, or sliver of a hope that he's going to get better, then he can't be on the bench. You know what I mean?
Also, real quick, again, side convo, just because I see it getting reported now. Adam Schefter a minute ago, Zach Taylor said Zach Moss is out indefinitely with the neck injury. Sounds like it might be an IR situation. Sounds like it might. I mean, indefinitely is never something you want to hear, especially for a neck injury. How high is too high for Chase Brown rest of the season?
He's got to be a top 15 running back at the very least, I think.
So I was going through my rest of season rankings at running back right now. Are you taking Chase Brown or Josh Jacobs?
Man, I would take Chase Brown, I think.
You taking Chase Brown or Jonathan Taylor?
I don't like this question.
Taking Chase Brown. I'm assuming you're taking Chase Brown over Alvin Kamara.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I would take Kamara.
So regardless, I got to my top 13 running backs in my rankings. And again, like, I'm assuming McCaffrey, Walker, kind of obviously you're taking those guys. But, like, Chase, Kamara,
wherever
Taylor,
Dobbins
Jacobs,
is ranked
Aaron
is where
Jones.
Chase Brown needs to be ranked realistically.
I would take Chase Brown over J.K. Dobbins and sleep like a baby doing it.
I would take J.K. Dobbins still, but it would be be one spot away. And I think Jacobs too, I think you could definitely make the argument that you would still want Jacobs, because I think that the offense is better in Green Bay for what Jacobs does. Like, they center him as the offense, whereas Chase Brown's just an ancillary piece.
No, that's very reasonable.
They're all high-end RB2s, realistically. We could argue the semantics of them back and forth all we wanted. Realistically, would probably come down to, like, who has the better schedule or something to tie break them.
Yeah, and I know the Bengals have a pretty. Let me check their schedule. Chase Brown. I know they play obviously the Cowboys in a couple of weeks. Okay, so at Baltimore again, bad run matchup, but we know Chase Brown gets receiving usage. No Zach Moss in the lineup. I think that can supplement his PPR game if you have him. At LA Chargers, not the greatest matchup. Then he has the bye. Pittsburgh, if you're going to attack them, it's going to be on the ground like we've seen in the last few weeks. At Dallas, you can run on them pretty easily. At Tennessee, Cleveland, and then Denver. So not the greatest schedule, but
I would say that he only has like 1 or 2 plus matchups the rest of the year.
Still,
it's not a great schedule, like, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Regardless, though, I mean, fringe top 15 level running back, high end running back too, and like we just kind of went through, you can probably make the case that he's a low in RB1. He's well within that range. So if you drafted Chase Brown in like the 9th plus round of your drafts, which is where he was going, enjoy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I traded him for Jordan Love in my home league. And not like, here's the thing though, like I have Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, and Tyrone Tracy still on my team, and like I also have like very good receivers that I like to play through my flex as well. Um, but yeah, I could use Chase Brown right about now at least for this week. But yeah, Chase Brown definitely a good pick at cost. It just took a couple games.
So obviously again, like we'll see what happens. Again, somebody saying like maybe they trade for Khalil Herbert. I don't think they would trade for like a Khalil Herbert archetype. They'd probably trade for more of a power running back if they do add a running back to the backfield, is where I would assume it. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they want to make it a 1-2 punch of two similar backs, I would say, between Brown and Herbert. Funny enough, I actually think Chase Brown, our comp for him both was Khalil Herbert coming out, right?
My Chase Brown comp I thought was Hubbard, maybe. No, I can't remember who it was.
I'm pretty sure it was. Was it not?
Oh, mine was Elijah Mitchell. That was my comp.
Oh, mine was Khalil Herbert.
Mine was Elijah Mitchell, I think, coming out.
So again, we'll get back to the notes because we are running a little bit long.
Last two things, and then we'll get into the dynasty trades here. Three more teams in dirt nap. Jaguars, like, peace. Yeah. See ya. You're still ass. Raiders, bye. Don't need to see you again. Giants minus Malik Neighbors, bye. And you can't start Daniel Jones next year. So have fun, Daniel Jones, doing what you're doing for the rest of the year. And maybe at some point, I think we will see Drew Lock. I don't know when, but it'll probably happen at some point.
Yeah, and then I just have a final takeaway. Again, going to be a little rapid fire. Do have to talk about the Flock League, and I mean, I'm sure you can bring up your own matchup because you do need a little bit to happen tonight. We both kind of do, but I am playing Sal this week. Currently up about 11.7 points. He does have Bucky Irving versus Mike Xavier Worthy. Again, on face value, I should be able to win this matchup, but again, knock on wood, hopefully Bucky Irving doesn't have a huge game and make that a false. I mean, we mentioned Chase Brown. In his last, since week 4, 23.2, 16.4, 14.4, 7.3, 11.4, 20. He's been an absolute monster since he started seeing more snaps after week 3. So credit there. And I just like how the team is scaling moving forward. Obviously, getting Nico back is a big deal. Picked up the 49ers defense on bye because in the next couple of weeks, they have Tampa Bay and Seattle. And I mean, no offense to you guys. We'll see how you look tonight. But without those two wide receivers, I do really like how that 49ers defense matches up. Feeling good. We potentially could get to 5-4. We have Mason on the docket for next week, who, as you guys can see here, maybe if you didn't try to get cute and held your players, you'd be 6-3 right now. Because as you'll see in the vlog, Mason does make a trade where if he didn't make the trade, he would have won his matchup. And spoiler alert, he played against the worst team in the league this week.
Yeah, for sure. And in my matchup today, Zach and I are pretty close knit right now. I need 24 from Travis Kelce, which is a big ask, but he also can get there in a PPR league. He catch 8 passes for 120 yards and a touchdown, then he's there. So I need a big game from Kelce today. And also, if there was one linebacker core that I would trust Travis Kelce to do this against right now, it would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, bro, I'm just saying, if you are able to take down Zach and his 2 L's are to the FSE boys, stonks are up.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to be really mad too, because I started Prescott and he only got me 12 points before getting injured. And
yeah,
Mahomes I had on my bench. And if I sit Mahomes and he has a legacy game with like 30 points today, which is definitely very, very possible against our defense, I'm going to be really, really sad knowing that. My gut was telling me to start Mahomes, but I got scared off by the weather ultimately. And that's why I started Dak Prescott. And again, for what it's worth, I think if Prescott doesn't get injured, he probably scores like 20 points or something like that. Because he had 12 in like 2.5 quarters, and then they scored a touchdown late in the game with Tolbert there. That would have put him up to like 17, 18 points or whatever. So he probably would have gotten there. I feel bad that I, didn't start Mahomes, though. I have a feeling that I might have won. Once this week is over, we're going to get like a 18-point Kelce performance, and I would have won had I just started Mahomes. I have a feeling that's what's going to be happening, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's always the worst when like you put a question out there, and this happened to me too. You put a question out there, and everybody's saying like the decision you don't want to go with, and instead of making the one that your gut actually trusts, you end up following someone else. And that's also, I mean, that applies to you guys. For example, you'll ask us questions. We'll do research on a week in, week out basis, but this fantasy game that we play is so range of outcome based. If Dak hits his, what was that, 12 points, that's his, 20th percentile range of outcome. Even if like on a median range of outcome perspective, his median range of outcome was hits than Mahomes coming to the week. If Mahomes hits his 80th percentile outcome and scores 22 points, are you going to talk about, oh, that was great process to start Dak? No, you're going to be fucking feeling awful that you went with the option that scored the less points, even though you assumed coming into the week that Mahomes would have been your guy. Like you were saying throughout in the group chat on Twitter, you said you were leaning Mahomes, and obviously the weather ended up making that decision for you. But like, it always just feels the worst when you have a feeling about something, and even if you don't truly trust it, like that's what your gut's telling you, and then you just go with the other option. Like that's happened to me so many times. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's the worst, especially if you go down because of it. Like if
Yeah.
I win tonight, I'm cool. Like
Yeah.
just get 25 for Kelsey, like just give me it and I'll be fine. But if that decision ends up costing me the game, like if Mahomes has 8 points tonight and I was like, whatever, okay, I was the wrong decision in either case. They were both bad. But if Mahomes has like 30 points tonight, I'm gonna be fucking pissed for sure.
No, I feel you on that for sure. We'll go through some of the dynasty trades because I mean, overall, if you guys want more Flock League content, that will be posted. New vlogs both on Tuesday and Thursday, I believe, is when we usually drop them, right? Tuesday morning, Thursday morning.
Thursday and Tuesday is the recaps are on Tuesday, and then the week preview is on Thursday. So let's talk about 3 trades that we got here. We'll rattle through these quick, and then I'll go over the quick waiver schedule. I'll do waivers tomorrow, and then obviously on the TikTok too, if you guys are following over there.
Yep.
Fletsky sends in a trade here, flocked up league. So me and Danny are both in this league. Went super win now out of the startup, got hammered with injuries. So I'm trying to sell for future assets slightly here. So he sends away Tyler Lockett, Jonathan Taylor, and Michael Pittman for Trey Benson, Romo Dunze, and 2 2s.
Yeah, I mean, I love this trade. Even without the context that JT potentially got banged up in that game, if you realize, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't my full-on year to fully contend in this league. Let me try to retool. Let me try to get back some assets. Even though he hasn't looked the greatest, Dunze versus JT, I would consider pretty much a wash in Dynasty at the very minimum. I would actually still prefer Dunze, but if somebody's lower on Dunze, that would about equate off. And then for me, I would much rather have Benson and 2 2s to Pittman and Lockett. So I think you won that deal.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, I've said it a couple weeks now, but like the absolute best rebuilding buy for 1-year punt teams at running back is Trey Benson. There is no better running back buy in Dynasty right now, in my opinion. At if you're a 1-year punt team or a rebuilding team, go buy Trey Benson. You can probably get him for a singular 2nd-round pick at this point in time. And he looks good. Like he's averaged, I talk about it in the waiver segment here. He's averaged over 5.5 yards per carry or 5.4 yards per carry in his last like 23 touches this season. It's just a matter of James Conner being there or being hurt or, next year comes like whatever. It's a long-term game with Trey Benson. All you need to know about him right now is he looks like a good player and he was a good prospect and he's very athletic and he can catch the ball and all that kind of stuff. And he's learning from a veteran running back right now. So I feel pretty good about that. But yeah, this trade that Fletsky did here, I would do this even if it didn't have the 2 2s in it, to be honest.
I would as well. So very sharp move. Shut up, Flet. Obviously, he's watching right now. We talk to him on a day-to-day basis. He knows how we think and makes a deal to confirm that. Funny enough, I actually am curious. Who did he make this trade with?
Yeah, because we're both actually in the league.
I'm looking at Flock Me Silly. I'm baked.
Someone sent me a trade offer and they're like, hey, do you check your offers? And now I need to check my offers here. So I'm going to get a live reaction to this offer on my.
Is this from L Jeff?
No. So this is in the Bitcoin League and I am tanking this year. So the reason I'm not checking my offers is because my team's bad. I was just offered. This is actually a half decent deal. Let me know what you think of this. 80 Mitchell, a 2025 second, a 2025 third, and a 2025 fourth for David Njoku.
Repeat that.
80 Mitchell, a 2025 second from a contender, so mid to late projected. 2025 third from a bad team, so an early projected third. And then late projected 2025 fourth. So a 2, a 3, and a 4, and 80 Mitchell for David Njoku on a tanking team.
Seems fair. I mean, if he sent that to you cold offer, see if you can change the 3 and the 4 for a 2, and then that's an even more smash.
Yeah, I think that would be the way that I do it as well. But yeah, that was interesting because I hadn't checked my trade offers in a couple of days, and he just pinged me. He's like, "Hey, do you ever check your trade offers?" So,
yeah. Sorry. By the way, I love you, Dynasty. I am if you're looking at right now. But what the fuck is this offer? Flacco, Bigsby, and a third for Brandon Ayuk. Okay, like no, what the fuck. Sorry, I had to. That just like ruined my mood. I'm kidding. Spicy mentions this. I mean, we could quickly browse it, but we don't want to spend too much longer because we do have to get into waivers. But I do want to bring this up because this was a big deal. Also, of course, I had to talk about my record on yesterday's live stream because Spicy ends up taking down my 8-0 juggernaut in the FSC Listener League. Shout out to Spicy for that. But I mean, we got to talk about this trade. Corey, I love you. Not you, Corey. Corey Van. I love you. But I don't understand this trade at all. like at all, straight up. So Bowers and Algier, he trades away. He ends up getting a couple 2s, a couple 3s, and a bunch of names. You traded up aggressively to get Bowers. You traded basically 2 1s in the draft to go up and trade from, I believe, the 112 to the 107 to give Bowers. You gave up your 2025 1. I just don't understand this at all.
Yeah. So he sold Bowers. So
Like
this is
half these players are junk.
Yeah, I mean, we've done this with Corey before on Dynasty Decisions episodes. I've noticed he likes volume as opposed to you know, studs. I've seen rebuilds of his where he's like torn it down for like a bunch of seconds and stuff like that. Yeah, this is I guess you're playing the volume game, hoping that some of these guys turn into studs for you. Like if Theo Johnson hypothetically turns into the next Trey McBride, this would work out in your favor.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of what has to happen. Otherwise, you're screwed in this trade.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. You have Bowers, you hit on him, you traded up aggressively to get him, like 2 1s basically worth to go up and get Bowers. I believe it was the pick that, if I remember correctly, it was the pick that resulted in Brian Thomas plus his own first rounder. No, okay.
In either case, Danny, I would love to go over this, but we do have to get to
we don't have time. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring it up because I saw Spicy bring it up. Apologies. We'll get into the
Jake's trade
waivers.
Here.
Yeah, Jake's
trade, we still got more trades here, brother.
My apologies.
So Jake's got a trade here. 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium start 11. The trade, you guys can see it there. A contending team. He sends off Dontavian Wicks, Garrett Wilson, and a 2025 projected late to mid to late first. I think he mentioned it was his first or something like that. He gets Saquon Barkley and T. Higgins. Obviously, Higgins was not injured at the time. He had just had a couple good games, and Garrett Wilson was kind of underperforming. I believe this would have been probably shortly after the Devontae Adams trade. What do you think of this? Do you think this is a matter of, man, I overpaid for production, or do you think this is I just kind of had an unlucky run out with how this went?
Overpaid for production. I would rather have Wilson to Barkley, and then it's Wicks in a first for Higgins. So
I think had Higgins been just totally healthy, wide receiver, back end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 self, I think this is a pretty fair deal on either side. But the way that Higgins has run out so far, and obviously Wilson just had a monster game.
Let's talk about this. How much more, even if we're assuming Higgins is healthy, like I don't think he's like, I think at best case scenario, he's worth Wicks in the 1, and then I'd rather have Wilson than Barkley anyways.
Yeah. But I think given the fact that you're paying up for production and you're getting the best running back in fantasy football right now, that's kind of the cost of doing business. Like it's hard.
I get it.
It's hard to get a superstar running back on the market for anything less than a very valuable young asset.
I'm not giving up Garrett Wilson for Barkley, no matter the situation my team's in.
No, I agree with you. But I think in most people's league dynamics, that's kind of what you have to pay. Like if you're looking for a player, like maybe in this situation, you go after 8. Like if that was Achane instead of Barkley, do you feel any differently about the deal?
I mean, even it's more giving up Wilson for me. Like I still value Wilson as a very, very high prize asset. Like he's still a top 8 to 10 dynasty wide receiver. And for me, like that's gold. Like that's 2 1s worth of value on the market. The way I'm looking at this is what 3 1s plus Dontavian Wicks for Barkley and Higgins, because I value Wilson as 2 1s. And I don't know. I would rather have the Wilson side, though. I think it makes sense. I understand getting the contending assets in the situation, but also like I just wouldn't have given up Wilson is where I'm at with it. Like, could you have gotten Barkley for a price that doesn't include Wilson? Like that's where I would have went.
Yeah, if it was, let's say Wicks, the first and a second, would you rather do that for Barkley than Wilson involved in the deal for Higgins?
Yeah, that is more. I'm more than comfortable.
Yeah, Wicks a 1 and a 2 probably would have been about equivalent value.
Yeah,
give or take.
Like if that's a cost, then it's like, okay, I'm getting an aging running back, but he is giving me a late production, giving up a 1 and 2 and a young promising receiver. Like I think that's reasonable. It's just the Higgins for Wilson on top of that, I just can't get on board with, because as much as I like Higgins, like it's at least a 1 and a 2, if not more of a discrepancy between him and Wilson. Like, well, dude, Wilson is exactly what we thought he would be now.
Yeah, no, he's been
great.
He's been outstanding the last couple of games, and I feel like a moron for having traded him away in our
at the time too. Well. At the timing is so bad.
I know the timing has been brutal because I definitely could have gotten more for him now. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? I felt like I had to make a move given the RB2 situation that I was in, but maybe I made the wrong one. We'll have to wait and see how it materializes. I do still think that DJ Moore is one of the better buy lows in fantasy right now. So
I don't disagree.
I'm not going to curtain it on DJ Moore. It's just Wilson's been obviously better, and I would have won this week had I, done that. Because had I not made that trade, Wilson would have been in my lineup. That's 30,
Madison would have been out of it.
more extra points. Madison would have been in my lineup. I would have probably started like Ray Davis or Zach Charbonnet. If I had started Ray Davis, he had a monster game. And also, I would have had Tillman in my lineup and not Ridley wouldn't have been on my team, right? So I would have had Tillman in my lineup instead, which would have been a little bit better.
Trust me, there's so many deals I look at that I was considering making, and then I look at it 3 weeks time, and I'm like, thank God I didn't make that deal.
Oh, tons of deals. That happens to me all the time. Sometimes it's like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't make that deal. And then sometimes it's like, oh God, thank God I did not make that deal. Anyways, last trade that we're going to talk about here. This is from before last week.
Love this.
Akiva basically sends off the best ball full PPR half tight end premium. He sends off AJ Brown and James Conner for Jaden Reed, a first and a second. Now, I think it's fair to say that maybe Jaden Reed has lost maybe 10% of his value in the last couple of games just because he hasn't had quite the level of performances that we saw earlier in the year. But him versus AJ Brown is, I would prefer, like, you might disagree with this, but I would rather have AJ Brown than Jaden Reed in the second round pick. I would still rather have AJ Brown.
I wouldn't. So in Dynasty, I actually had like a couple weeks ago. Now, obviously, again, like I can't rank Reed over Brown at this point, but a couple weeks ago when he was on his hot trajectory, I think that was a very reasonable take and one that I actually had because he's a couple years younger. He was giving you elite performances. Like he was like the wide receiver 4 in fantasy at the time. Obviously, he loses a little bit of value, but I still think the ability is there. I still think he's tethered to an elite offense. Like AJ Brown is a stud in his own right, where you have to take him even despite the age gap. But if I'm in a situation like Akiva is here and he's, maybe not fully on competing this year, you get a younger asset and a second rounder, I would rather have Reed in a second in this particular situation to AJ Brown. And on top of that, I mean, you're cashing in James Conner for a first rounder. I think the holistic deal, we both agree on Keith's side here.
Yeah, for sure. And not to mention, he said this team is currently in 6th place. So yeah, they might be, in the playoffs. And he said they're in the playoff mix or whatever, but you're not giving away, like the first that you got is not 111, 112. It could be if they end up winning the championship, but more likely it's going to be like a mid first.
And then, I mean, we see this all the time where a projected playoff team, but is on the edge, ends up missing out. And they're like, oh, no, actually, he's not even the highest in terms of max 0.4 of the non-playoff teams. And that pick that you think is going to materialize into the 108 or 109 ends up being the 104. Like I've seen that.
Not to mention AJ Brown just got injured too, in addition to this trade. So like you also just gave him an injured player, and James Conner also.
Conner hasn't yet.
Yeah, he hasn't been yet, but he definitely could be injured at some point. So we're closing in on the hour and 30-minute mark. Let's just quickly, it's a fucking awful week of waivers. Let me just be completely honest with you guys. It is a bad week of waivers. So I will just quickly rattle through like my early top 5. And if you need running backs, if you need receivers, you might be shit out of luck.
Save your fab.
Save your fab. If you can, there's a couple spot starts on waivers if you needed one guy, because there's 4 teams on bye this week. But actually, the best positions on waivers this week is probably quarterback and tight end.
100%. I mean, we'll talk about the actual names itself, but I'll tell you right now, Corey, the guy that you even have at 1, do I feel good about putting him in my lineup?
Yeah, like this is a 0 to 10% of your fab waiver budget week on flex type of players, wide receivers and running backs. If you need a tight end because you have Njoku on bye or whatever, you could definitely spend some fab on a tight end, and I'll talk about all of that in tomorrow's video. But as far as like the wide receiver and running back top 5s here, you got Trey Benson, who is my number 5, who is simply a upside swing and stash. Like you can't play him, but he looks good. Like I said, he looks good. He's getting over 5.4 yards per carry on his last 23 touches. And James Conner's never finished a full healthy season. So that's where you're at with Trey Benson. He's a total stash. Can't use him, but he's one of the best running backs available because there's no running back production available right now.
I mean, I just got to bring this up. Imagine if one of, if not both, are him or Brooks hit on my Flock League team.
Yeah, that would be really crucial for you, to be honest. And I need a running back. I've never needed a running back so bad in my life than I do in the Flock League. Could I have just had one of those running backs from my home league team on my Flock League team? Like Tracy.
Sorry, I have all of them.
I know. Chase Brown, Tracy, Dowdle, Dobbins. One of those guys on my Flock League team would make my team actually quite good.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean,
it sucked. Anyways, next up, we have Ray McLeod is the number 4 waiver ad. This is how down bad we are at waivers this week. The reason he's the number 4 ad is because Drake London suffered a hip pointer injury. Ray McLeod had 11.5 PPR points. He has consistently been running virtually all of the routes for the Atlanta Falcons all season. Darnell Mooney, of course, is going to be the big beneficiary of Drake London being out of the lineup, and Kyle Pitts as well. But Mooney especially, because Pitts is actually, his snap share has declined a little bit in recent weeks. So it's going to be big time, ups for Mooney this week. But Ray McLeod against the Saints, where they might trade Lattimore, they have no secondary whatsoever. Ray McLeod, you could do worse if you had to throw in somebody into your lineup this week.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. If Drake London is out, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Well, if Drake London is out, maybe, Kyle Pitts can take the next step. Until Atlanta's coaching staff believes that, then it's probably not going to happen, because we were coming out 5 really good games in a row, and then he sees his snaps decline and has one catch for 11 yards. Yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts' usage is a mess on a week-to-week basis. Again, like, you kind of just have to play him in your lineup if he is your tight end, because we've seen the ceiling evident. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago against you, he had 2 touchdowns against the Buccaneers, looked good. It is what it is. But yeah, no, I agree with Ray McLeod. There's not many guys on the waiver wire available that are going to be running 90+% of the team routes. Straight up.
Yeah, on a team that'll probably be implied for like 25 plus points in this game against New Orleans. And the other thing I just quickly want to shout out to, I have like 14% Darnell Mooney in best ball, which is like the most
that's
crazy. Like, I liked him. I really did actually like him at cost, but only for best ball. I wish I had been targeting him in managed leagues, because I only liked him for best ball, because I was like, oh, he's going to have weeks. It's a good offense. It's like, I can't believe how many shares I ended up with him.
I have 2.7%, and I if I recall correctly, I pretty much I think you drafted him in a draft we were in together, and I basically asked you, like, oh, what is even the upside of a Darnell Mooney? And you're like, no,
he's literally a wide receiver 1 in fantasy right
now. I'll eat crow.
So.
He looks great. I was dead wrong.
Yeah, he looks great. And the other thing too is, on my big dog team, if I had him instead of the other 4 fucking rookie receivers that I have that are doing nothing, he would be absolutely helping me like crazy right now. But anyways,
sorry, could I just bring up one thing? Sorry, and then I'll let you continue. This is a long episode anyway. Sorry for you guys, but you mentioned your underdog ownership. I just went over to see how much Mooney, 2.7, not great. But then I looked at the top 6 names that I have: James Cook, JSN, Demario Douglas, J.K. Dobbins, Nico Collins, Tyrone Tracy, all above 19.5%.
Is Mario Douglas a good pick?
But going forward,
that one seems
9
like
targets this week.
To me.
9 targets this week.
I don't know. That's you can have your targets there.
All right, we'll see. I mean, hey, I'm glad I got to hit him instead of Jalen Polk.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have a lot of Jalen Polk, so not good. Demario Douglas. Ray Davis is the next guy that we're going to talk about here. Again, can you use Ray Davis? No. But he has been a top 20 running back in 3 of his last 4 games. So again, with Benson, at the very least, that if James Cook gets injured, Ray Davis could win people leagues. So he needs to be rostered. Again, we're talking about a handcuff stash as the number 3 ad on the week. That's how bad the waiver wire is in week number 10. Number 2 ad is Quentin Johnston, who has quietly been pretty good in 3 of his 5 healthy games. You guys can see there, week 1 and week 4, the only 2 like healthy games that he actually played through and finished. He had bad games in, but the other ones, week 2, week 3, and week 9 now, he's actually had some pretty good performances, over 12 PPR points in all of those games. The Chargers are throwing the ball more. They have, I think 235 plus passing yards in each of the last 4 games for Justin Herbert. So they're throwing the ball a little bit more. They're actually airing it out a little bit. They have some good matchups coming up too. I feel pretty good about Quentin Johnston. If you had to throw somebody in your lineup this week, I think you could do it.
Yeah. Also you mentioned your big dog. Quentin Johnston's actually on my big dog, because I got auto pick Geno Smith way ahead of ADP, and the wide receiver I would have picked with Geno, that wide receiver pick ended up being where Geno was being selected, which was the Quentin Johnston range. So I got Geno at the pick. I should have taken the wide receiver, and the wide receiver I got adversely was Quentin Johnston. So it might actually work out for me.
Yeah, he's actually been kind of a better in best ball type of dude so far this year. And this is how gross we are at. Number 1 waiver ad for me on the week. And again, this is subject to change. It's early waivers for a reason. But the reason I have Demarcus Robinson as my number 1 waiver ad is because I expect the Dolphins and Rams game to have a high over under. Demarcus Robinson been a top 18 receiver, over 17 PPR points per game in the last 2 weeks. Puka Nacua got ejected. I mean, he's still dealing with an injury. I just think Demarcus Robinson is just a good beneficiary of those guys being on the field in general, because Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, they're going to get theirs, but the offense is just way better with those guys out there. And Demarcus Robinson has been able to make plays down the field.
I mean, speaking of better in best ball, that's another guy. If you drafted him in best ball, he's probably been paying off for you, because a couple of weeks in a row, you'll never know when to start Demarcus Robinson, but you'll know 5 games a year he's going to have 15, 20 plus PPR points.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. Like Demarcus Robinson being a top waiver ad this week, brutal. But again, if you are in need of quarterback or tight end, there's options out there. Like Drake May is a good pickup, of course. We had 90 plus rushing yards. He is available in like 25% of, or only rostered, sorry, in like 25% of leagues. If you need a tight end this week, which a lot of people probably do because Tucker Kraft is on bye and David Njoku's on bye, and there's a number of other guys on bye this week. Jatavian Sanders had a good performance. Again, he's getting routes, he's getting targets, so he's an interesting option. Taysom Hill is getting snaps, and I called Taysom Hill week on our Sunday morning live stream, which I feel pretty good about.
Kudos.
And also the other one is Jonnu Smith, who I believe has had 6 targets or more in like 4 straight games or something like that. So he's getting targets. He's actually getting performance, upticks here. So if you're in need of a tight end, if you're in need of a quarterback, there's options out there. But if you are in need of a running back or wide receiver, it is bleak this week.
So in my home league, there's a guy who drafted Jonnu Smith in like the 10th round and has had him at the starting tight end spot all year. Barely ever checks his lineup, never trades, never does waivers. And Jonnu Smith's just been in his starting tight end slot all year. And he's actually one of the reasons why I lost in week 2 to him, because after a 1.7 point week 1, he ended up having his breakout game, if you will, in week 2 against Buffalo with 7 targets. So Jonnu Smith is just kind of like a meme in my own personal league, but he's actually been quite good. And although he doesn't get like the full allotment of snaps that some of the other tight ends get, maybe in that range, we know this offense can be efficient with Tua under center. And Jonnu Smith has quietly been their 3rd receiving weapon, 4th, because I mean Devon Achane also counts. So 4th receiving weapon. But to be fair, you can even call Achane the 2 and Jonnu the 3 with how bad Waddle's
that's how it's been. Jalen Waddle's not getting targets right now. And I mean, obviously the best waiver ads of the week, if you guys are in shallow leagues, check for Cedric Tillman, check for Xavier Legette, check for Ricky Pearsall coming off of bye. But like people in 12-man leagues who are in, competitive leagues, there's nothing available right now. Like absolutely nothing.
It's bleak. No,
it's bad.
It's definitely bleak for sure. But yeah, and again, a couple guys, like if like a Caleb Williams got dropped as well, because I'm sure he might have been dropped in a couple leagues. Like if you have like a Brock Purdy or a Kirk Cousins, you have like your safety quarterback, there's no reason for you not to pick up a quarterback with upside like Caleb Williams to stash.
Yeah, no, it's definitely reasonable. So again, appreciate you guys for sticking around with us the last hour and a half or so. Leave a like on the stream if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here as well. We'll have you covered with waiver stuff tomorrow. Check out the TikTok for my Monday Night Football pick'ems. Daniel will probably be dropping his later today. And then also we'll be live before Monday Night Football at 7:30 Eastern tonight to just talk about some, odds and ends and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, appreciate you guys for joining us. Peace out. And we'll talk to you soon.